Whoa, it looks way out of convergence. I got red and blue, but there is no green's not present. The bigger issue on this tube is this red. It's the screen in red flames, pretty much. Ooh! Oof, gave myself a little zap from static electricity there. Woo! I'm super excited to get started on the very first job here in the new shop space, now that everything's been finished up. And that's going to be to get the Neo Geo machine in a little bit better condition. So originally these machines came with these little metal awful mounts here that are really difficult to deal with. Let me show you. So it's a piece like this that is just installed in the wood here normally. You can see this came out of that hole because it just wears out over time. They're complete garbage at this point. I need to get them all out because what I'd like to do is have some wheels on this thing. You can see I've got this one all the way out. I just got rid of the bolt and all the, well, almost all the staples on this side. You're just going to try to pry it off and pop it off. Exactly like that, right? Just using leverage against that bolt head. Again, you can use a flathead screwdriver to get under these staples. Kind of pop them a little bit free. And once they're free like that, you could come in with some needle nose pliers and just pull them all the way out like that. Ugh. See, and sometimes they'll break off. You have to get rid of those staples or you can't usually fit a wrench in here. I finally got this bolt out, and the real issue is you get into these layers of oxidation and rust that really haven't been touched in years, and it gets really difficult to get them through. Well, this last one actually popped out just while I was pulling out. And these jobs, they call them knuckle busters because that's what you always end up doing, is busting your knuckle on something. So, right, the last one, it's always the one that gets you. So here's all the pieces I have. All right, I think I found a really good solution. First off, I found a piece of high quality plywood, and it is 24 by 24 by 3/4 of an inch. So this should fit perfectly at the bottom. And then to go with that, I found some 3-inch wheels that are super heavy duty. I also love the red paint job to match the Neo Geo when we get that fixed. Put the two that look like this in the back corner, something like that. And then we'll put the swivelers in the front corners like that so that we can move it along. First, I'll attach this with these screws. And I'm going to drill probably a couple of points right here in the center, because if we look around under here, which we're attaching to down here, we don't want to come in here and drill into our transformer or our power supply. Now the rest of the floor is pretty wide open, but those two things are along the back here, and we don't want to hit any of that good stuff. All right, I managed to find some extra screws here, and I'm going to go ahead and mount this like this in this area, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like in a second. All right, here we go. Hopefully that'll do okay. Again, it's not like bolted down the corner. I added a couple of extra bolts here, or screws. Let's add the other 3. All right, I've installed all 4 of these wheels. They're even and in the right spots that I wanted them. Let's get this sucker up. and see how these wheels work. Well, it manages to hold the weight fine, and I even added a rug to give it a little bit of a bump to try to travel over. Let's see how it moves when we just give it a tug here. And yeah. Oh yeah, it's still, I mean, it's heavy, but those wheels work great. You can see that with the front casters being the more controllable ones. You can steer it, get it in place, and you just push on this. Just like that to lock it. Now let's work on the CRT. Let's look at what we got here. It's a Zenith. There's the tube number, RA63ADG25X. It's in decent shape. It's not the greatest tube. Somebody before me has put in an ungodly number of convergence strips around the yoke. Here's the neck board. Those are color potentiometers right there. The board has been like serviced before, but not by me. I know that there's fresh solder on a lot of things. Let me shine some light down in there. There we go. You can see there's a little dust, which I'll blow off, but the capacitors are in good shape. They do appear to be original, so it wouldn't hurt to do a cap kit on them eventually. Let's see. What about this one? I don't know. That one right there might look a little bit cooked, actually. Look at that filter cap right there. Huh. So maybe we do pull this board and replace a couple of these caps, because this one right here is starting to look dodgy. Bolts holding the chassis in here. Should be good. There we go. Okay, good. So that's loose. The ground is actually always hardwired. So as it's been serviced before, somebody put in like a wire crimp instead of resoldering this ground. So I'm going to clip this free and we're going to discharge this and see if there's an actual zap here. First off, let's do this. The odds of us having a charge here are very, very low because this tube's not been turned on in ages, like 6 months or more. But let's just see. I know it's not going to have anything, right? No. So over time, the tubes will slowly discharge. I've got the chassis out here. I've looked closer. This was the suspicious capacitor. It just looks a little cone-shaped to me, and it's a Jamicon. So we're going to replace that and pretty much all these. There's one cap I don't have in stock. Actually, there's two of them. I don't have... Oh, no, I do have that, right? Actually, I have one of these right here, so I can replace this snap in with this one. The only one I don't have is this one down here, which hopefully it's okay. I can order it, but I don't have that one in stock. So before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and replace all the rest of them. I'm also going to redo the solder. Solder's actually held up quite well, but it's always good to go in here and just reflow all this solder. Look at this, it's got a nice little egg sac of some sort right there that's grown in right next to that color red. Nice. This is our little breakout adjustment board that comes on these chassis. I believe this is like a Wells Garner chassis of some sort. I can't tell. I used to know, but the tag I think fell off. So if I look up these serial numbers, it'll probably tell me. But this little breakout board has potentiometers on it. They're all good. I will just go in here and replace all that solder too, because it's starting to oxidize, and if those go out, then you'll lose adjustment ability from them, or you'll have problems. So do that, do that, do that. So we're going to do this on a live stream, and if you want to see the live stream, I will tag that up here in the corner. so you can check out when we actually did all this work. And here it is, the completed and restored board here. So I've installed all the capacitors. I did that on the live stream, and I wanted to go over a couple things here just to remind you. These boards have a few bipolar capacitors, so just remember that. Pay attention to what you're pulling on these boards. Like these 4 are bipolar. Also, it looks like the orientation marks on the capacitors, especially like these, were covered up or gone. All these other caps down here had pluses and minuses, like there's a positive. It didn't have a negative, but they all had positives somewhere, except for a few of them. And the reason I mention that is because you can see here is a great example. The polarities are opposite. Here's a look under the board. It can be quite nerve-wracking reflowing all the solder on here because so many of these points are close together, like clustered like this, and you're worried about, you know, them shorting out or bridging and causing some kind of an issue. I think we're pretty good here. I've looked over this probably 4 times already and just checked to make sure that nothing was bridged. It is testing time, and everything has been reconnected to the CRT. These are grounds where I'll fully install those once the monitor is tested, and if it's all good, we will reinstall everything where it needs to go. I'm not using the actual board today. Let me show you what I've got. But first off, there is this JAMA adapter for the big red. Those are speaker wires connected there on the side. And then the MVS slot connects to that. And now we have a JAMA connector there to use. So this is an early version of the MisterCade. Actually version 1 from Mr. Add-ons. So I will be using this kit here to connect to the JAMA part right there. Let's go plug this in. Well, here's my MisterCade all set up, and the JAMA connector power is put into it. The only USB thing that's connected right there is a cable coming around to a keyboard to run stuff on that. I'm kind of nervous, so I'm going to kick the power on and we'll see what happens. Oh goodness, I'm hearing some noises. Yeah, well, it's on. It looks way out of convergence. I have to let it warm up. Whoa. That doesn't look good at all. Alright, I managed to get the image stabilized here by adjusting the red drives. But I found the issue. Look, there's no green. I got red and blue, but there is no... I was like, it's super dim and something's not right. The green's not present. So there's either a short on the green and something's not working on the neck board, possibly. So that's what I'm going to look at first. Or something happened when I was moving the tube and the green is gone on the tube. Everything is like testing fine on this board. For the most part, like all the solder's good, nothing's bridged. These transistors all seem good. The resistors all test fine. The only thing they're testing a little funny are these potentiometers up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap the green and the blues, and we'll see what happens on the test. Alright, I've plugged everything back in and turned everything on, and check it out. The green is good on the tube. I've got red and green and yellow and no blue now. And the only thing I did was change those potentiometers up top. So that's the problem for sure. Our problem is that the 2 potentiometers, or at least the drive potentiometer, is bad on the blue now.
This is the bad one. It's reading like 3.3K or 3300 ohms, and it's supposed to be reading about 200, give or take. Now, this is called, these three are the same for the drives, and then the cutoffs are all the same. And these all seem to be tuned pretty good right around that 145 to 150 mark for the drives. So what I did was I didn't have a 150, but I have a 47 and a 100 ohm resistor. So we should be approximately 147 ohms of resistance here. Let me see how much resistance we get off of this. If I can. So right about 140. And let's see what the one next to it is tuned up to. 146. That's what the green one is. So that's the one that used to be in the blue, and the blue is fine at around that number. So let's see what happens when I just shove that in. Of course, it won't be adjustable, or it will not be adjustable, but maybe we can get some blue color and have all three colors on the screen at the same time for the first time. All right, well, we have good news. The blue has come back to us and is still somewhat adjustable with the cutoff potentiometer. So it literally is just the drive potentiometer that's bad on there. Just the one 200 ohm potentiometer is bad. All the others seem to be okay. The bigger issue on this tube is this red. It is super low, super duper low. So I really want to hook it up to the CRT tester, see what it reads, and then the green. The blue is really good, but the green's okay. Like, I can adjust the blue down, balance it with this green around this 2-to-1 cube area, but the red completely washes out and engulfs the screen in red flames pretty much. Ooh, oof, gave myself a little zap from static electricity there. Woo! Gotta love it. All right, it's a fun day in the shop. We get to use the 467 CRT analyzer and restorer from B&K. And this dinosaur of a tool is plugged in, and then thankfully I have a CRT socket that fits this tube. It's one of the couple random adapters I have for mine. All right, let's go through and run the test here. Everything's set to go. First thing we want to do is turn this on, and we want to observe for leakage here, like we're getting on all three lamps are actually flickering. So that means there could be a little bit of leakage between the cathodes on the colors. And it just means buildup over time is kind of like crusting in between, and they're almost shorting. Doesn't mean it's fully shorted. Again, these are just blinking, so it could be an issue with the tester on those lights. But let's move on to the next test. The good thing is nothing on the heater in G1 is leaking. That's pretty good. We're going to run a test to see what the life is on each color. So here's the heater voltage. We need to set this to 6.3, set the 4.7. Then we rotate this, and we're going to try to get this up to 6.3 volts right there. You see at the bottom? There we go. We got it set right there to 6.3. Now we want to set our G1, which is going to be on this. On the bottom, we want to go up to 50. There we go. Okay, now we can move over and adjust the color cutoffs, which just is going to make all those go down to 0. And we want to make these, we're going to use these little things, and we're going to try to get it to 1/0. There we go. See how it moves and fluctuates when I add that? It's very important to get this point right, or you'll get a bad test and you think your tube's better than it is, especially this red color. We're going right there. Same thing with the green. Let's make sure. There we go. And then finally the blue. Oh, no. Dial that bad boy in. Okay, so now it's ready to just run this life test and emissions test. So if I turn this wheel one more time, it's going to pop all these, and it's going to give us a indication on how much life or what's going on with each color individually on this tube. So let's go for it. Wow. Okay. That should have caused these to go up some, but they're not at all. Something's not right here. Okay, I think I've played with this enough. And what I did was I did go in here and I tried to adjust the convergence rings. I really wasn't able to improve the picture over what I originally had it set as. So I left or returned it to the original settings there, which I marked with the marker on the rings right there. I did remove 2 of the old convergence strips that were actually making things worse. There's still 3 in there. I wiggled those and moved those around, and they improved things a little bit. But this is about the best I could do. Now the CRT tester, I don't know what was going on. Like, something's either going on with it. It's hard to trust that machine when it's so old. Yes, I'm not really sure what happened with the CRT tester there. It wasn't giving me a good reading. If anybody has any suggestions, please leave them in the comments below, and maybe we can do that on another live stream. Get back in here and retest this tube. But as you can see right behind me, the tube and everything is mounted. I got it fully adjusted, at least as good as I could. So let me show you now this amazing machine in action. Now this is all centered around the MisterCade, which I'm not going to go into full details on a MisterCade, but it is an incredible piece of hardware that is incorporated with this Neo Geo machine. And thanks to the core for the Neo Geo, I can get in here and I can turn this machine into a console version or an MVS arcade version of the Neo Geo. And then I can easily load and launch any game from the Neo Geo library through that. And we all know how expensive Neo Geo stuff is today, so really a MisterCade is going to cost you less than many of even the MVS packages would be for some of the rarer video games in the Neo Geo library. So this is an awesome upgrade from that standpoint. Now the other thing that's really cool about this whole setup is I can run any core that's compatible with the MisterCade, and by doing that, now I can run my favorite Super Nintendo games on this machine. You're getting like an RGB fed signal straight through the JAMA, and it's all working itself out through the MisterCade and through my arcade cabinet so that I can use this control panel to play this game. Or I could easily put a USB device into my MisterCade and use an external controller to play if I don't have enough buttons on my control panel to actually play the game. But anyway, all in all, this project is awesome. There's still a lot of things to go as far as work to be done on this machine, but the MisterCade is going to allow me to update my machine, add new games when they're available, and just get a full, amazing experience out of owning an arcade. All right, so we've got this back in operation, the Neo Geo machine, and I couldn't be happier, at least with its current state. Thankfully, we got the tube going again, which is probably the most important thing to me personally, is to have the original tube in here. And thanks to the MisterCade, we don't have to worry about problems with the original boards as far as with Neo Geo stuff is concerned, because all those cores are easily available again, as you saw in the MisterCade. So I really enjoyed this project. There's obviously a lot of work I still need to do with this machine. When it gets warmer outside, we'll be able to pop open the shop's garage door here, and we'll start to work on the exterior of this item. We've got new vinyl graphics to put along the side. It needs to have some paint work done to it and some minor touch-ups. We also need to do work on the control panel there because the buttons are out of order as far as the color combinations goes. And just a few more things to touch up. The speakers sound like trash on this thing, so maybe changing those speakers or that whole audio system out will be a good idea. Anyway, I'll make sure to update everybody with that project in the future. Thank you for watching today, and I'll see you all next time with some more retro content.